Good morning. You're on the Dutch Farms Cropcast again with Andy Paulson, the owner of Access Seed Direct and IRC with Access here in Northern Illinois. Andy, how you doing today?
Good, Jerry. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'll tell you what. I think today we're finally going to get our combine back. I didn't tell you about this. I don't think I did right before we were talking here to hit record, but we've not had our combine all this week. We limped it across the finish line last Friday, finishing beans. We had our vertical unload auger, all the bearings and gearboxes going out, and so it's been up a deer here trying to get fixed, waiting on some parts, and of course it's come at when we've had exceptional weather. So I'm hoping to get back in the field today.
Well, I'm going to pray for you because, yeah, it'd be nice to get back in there, especially if you guys are getting rolling on corn again.
I
Yeah,
know. I know. My dad, he's going nuts. He's like, he goes, I just know what's going to happen. We've got, Mother Nature has sometimes a sick sense of humor. We've had a week of just great weather. The combine's been down. He goes, it could turn around and rain for a week. And he goes, and we'll be kicking ourselves for, not having something done. But, I don't know what you can do. I mean, when everything's yielding as good as it is right now, I mean, we're about ready to go into the access stuff, and that stuff's probably going to yield 300 bushel, right?
that's
So,
what I
I
like to
mean,
hear. Absolutely. 300
you know,
plus.
so I got to have a good auger to get it out. So we had to get it fixed.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of grain to carry up there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, I'll tell you what, let's dive into what we were going to talk about here. We had what we want to talk about is earth optics and, how what this company does, how it benefits you as a grower. And how you have partnered with them to be able to bring more value add to our farmers that we work with on the seed side of things. So I guess I'll kick it off to you, and you can tell us a little bit about Earth Optics.
Absolutely. Well, I guess I'll jump in real quick with a brief overview of, with Axis Seed Direct, we really emphasize corn and soybeans and genetics first. That's where we've been forever. We want to bring a fantastic product for a very specific region. We always kid, the Ohio State Buckeye guys always say the Ohio State, and we kiddingly say the regional seed company because there is really truly nobody in the marketplace that can select and apply product in a regional process the way we do. And I challenge anybody on that statement at any time. And it is a true thing. But when you do that, we started to look at the genetic potential of a bag of corn and how do you maximize that? How do
Yep.
you take that next level? Then Jerry, you've seen it. I mean, we get out there right now and you can see 300 bushel on the yield monitor pretty consistently. But you're getting whole field averages of the 250s to 240s, maybe in the 270s. And it's like, okay, well, what's that limiting factor to take it to the next level? So, last time we discussed one of the products, Nutribulk,
Yep.
and Axis Seed Direct, we branched out into some other products in the marketplace too to help maximize that genetic potential in a bag. And I got really thinking because we get into the biological space, and about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, these plantar pale treatments start coming out, and we had one year where it seemed like we had this huge, great response where it did really well, it was fairly consistent, and then the following year, it almost seemed like it was more of a 50-50 hit of whether or not we had a really good ROI or it was just maybe something else.
Yep.
So the question becomes, well, why? And where do you need to spend your money? And how do we go ahead and figure that piece out? Soil test is a great way to start. Your regular NP and K, that part is there. We all know that.
Yep.
Um, it's great value there. But how do you really have a conversation with your soil? So that's where I always come back to my farmers. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to have a conversation with my dirt, um, I need it to talk back to me.
Yep.
So how do I do that? We started playing around with a few different companies, and Earth Optics is the one we landed on, mostly due to the presentation and the way they can bring the data to light. and allow it to be usable to the farmer and make sense pretty easy.
Yep.
Uh, so when we go through this real quick this morning, what you're going to find is that on the DNA side, that's going to be your biofertility, your diseases, all those things that can be mitigated by stress. We can start identifying reasons why some of those things in that pail wasn't 100% success rate 100% of the time. Um, you might be spending money up to, I think some of these planter box treatments now can get up into the 30s and 40s
Oh yeah.
price per acre. And what if you're spending money in the wrong spot?
Y-
Um, that's that's a really big question. You get into the soil, the soybean seed treatments. That's another one. Traits on corn, like holy crap. I mean, that's a tremendous amount of money that's getting tied up. And I always kid our guys, like, if you don't have a boat, why would you buy boat insurance?
Yeah.
So kind of the same thing. If we don't have rootworm issues, then why are we going to spend the money to go ahead and buy that trait? So
Yep.
we'll jump in here and Jared, can you see that screen there on the left? Or
Yeah.
okay.
I can see where we're at right now. It looks like you're in the bio results of the true bio stuff, right?
Yep. So this is the crop protection portion of the True Bio test. So at our warehouse facility, we started doing an answer plot system years ago, wanting to make sure we're trialing product. And then we also have research sites throughout the state of Illinois that we go into, but this is more of a commercial demonstration site that we also take to yield every year. So we have multiple tiers on the right-hand side of your screen and then single tiers on the left we obviously square those up for harvest, but
Yep.
you know, that's the way they were tested this past year. But when you get in there on this crop protection piece, it's for corn, we're going to test for rootworms, anthracnose of corn, gibberella stalk rot, fusarium, pythium, rhizoctonia. And then you get into these lesions. Okay. So the lesions for nematodes, the reason these are important to you and to separate those out, that Pratolanchus, that one is the one that probably can cause the most issue when it comes down to yield damage on the farm. The first one, the penetrance, that one's going to be more of, it can get, let me just verify that. I've got a note over here. That one can get sometimes misinterpreted as uh, northern root lesion nematode. That's, or often, I shouldn't say misinterpreted, often called northern root lesion. I want to make
Got
sure
it.
it's right. Which is going to travel through the root system and cause damage, and you're going to see that lesion on the root, and it's going to start eating away at it. But so that's why that's important to you and how you can go ahead and handle that and mitigate that. So then we can search out in the great blue yonder and find out like, okay, how do we mitigate this issue? Is Votivo going to take care of this part? Is that a seed treatment that we need to look at? And then you get into the gibberella stalk rots and other things. Okay, we can do product selection and that rootworm piece. That's the big one.
Yep.
Uh, I before the call there, we were talking about examples, and we had a grower in Central Illinois this past year that was used in Smart Stacks Pro. Definitely scared of some really high rootworm numbers. They were kind of in a hot pocket for a while. And he was also using insecticide. We had the farm tested and come to find out on quite a few of his fields that he's been doing this practice on, he has absolutely zero rootworm numbers. Like it was so low, not detected, nothing out there. Um, So we went ahead and did a trial this year. It's one of those things that, Jeremy, it's not a guarantee. This test isn't a guarantee that, it's
Yep.
100% accurate 100% of the time, but it's definitely a good directional indicator. We went out there and played with using some non-GMO corn along with a Smart Stacks Pro and didn't use the Roundup. We didn't spray Roundup on it. He hasn't used that in a while. And we didn't put any insecticide on.
Yeah.
We didn't do a huge number of acres, but corn standing straight as a tree. No problems, no issues, no feeding. So you start adding up your insecticide rate, and then go ahead and add, probably in the neighborhood of, oh man, it could be up to $200 a bag
Yeah.
at farm gate price on that trait piece. So versus a non-GMO. Um, that's a huge number per acre. And when you start talking about
Yep.
the ROI where we're at today, that's not a great place to be. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, and I think, that is what, I personally really like. I mean, I geek out about, the true nutrient and true bio piece because, I guess it's for me as a grower, that's the part I like. But like you said, being able to have this talk back to you to make smarter decisions. A lot of people, are into and I'm not saying this is wrong. So this is I'm just saying, I know this is a rule of thumb. I mean, if you're going corn on corn, you need a smart stack. You probably have got some potential for rootworm. If you're going to bean ground, maybe you can get away with a, above ground control, double pro or something similar, and throwing insecticide in. I think that, in our area, Northern Illinois, Southern Wisconsin, I think that's kind of the general practice. But what you just laid out is a nice way to say, hey, where are really our risks, and where is it the best to spend our dollars? Is it, or is our dollar spend the best thing to do with, capture some type of insecticide in furrow when you've got 3% of the field that's got potential for that disease? Those types of decisions you can make with this, right?
couldn't agree more. Absolutely. And that's what we're after. And if you jump into like this next page, which is a great segue, Jared, um, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Sweetwater with your drone service.
Yep.
Like let's just visit just for a brief moment about tar spot. So on tar spot, what are we talking to really manage a high level of tar spot of outbreak in the month of August, late July, and you got to run a two-pass system because you got a really bad outbreak. What are
Yeah.
we talking
So
about,
you're
Wes?
you're probably talking, you're probably close to $50 an acre, if
Okay.
not more. I mean, 50 would almost be what I would say if you wanted to do a two pass. Okay, you're going to, and I'm saying two pass aerial. I'm not saying you sprayed it at, V5 with your sprayer and then you have me come over the top with it. I'm saying two pass with a drone aerial. And some people I know they were doing that out in Iowa this year just because they had the real bad southern rust. And so if you get into that situation, you could be spending northward, north of $50 an acre.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so going down that route. Um, I know you and I talked briefly earlier about the dye and dry on the last
Yep.
the last podcast we were on.
Yep.
And I'm not saying every product there, okay? So there is different ones, but we've seen a tremendous amount of difference in genetics between certain lines that have tar spot tolerance and certain lines that don't.
Yep.
So you look at this rating here and you say, okay, well, some guys I think believe that 100% of all corns are equally susceptible across the table, 100% of all varieties are. So everybody's going to blanket make that statement this next year and they're going to hard go that route.
Yeah.
Uh, well, what if we decide to make a decision for a field of corn based on tar spot because of last year's experience on a hybrid? And that's the only thing that we're going to look at. Well, you got to look at the full picture, right? You got to look at all the diseases that you're there with. And then also with the fungicide piece, like we can fix certain things with fungicide. Um, but definitely a directional rating on tar spot like this gives us, okay, on this specific farm, yeah, we're going to have to go with a better hybrid that's more resistant to tar spot than what another hybrid is. But
Yep.
another farm on another acre, part of my farming operation might be maybe it's a bigger issue on northern corn leaf blight, and tar spot's not an issue on that farm for some reason. Okay, well, there's your directional rating for northern corn leaf blight to make that decision. Um, but with Sweetwater there, I know you guys have done a great job with fungicide application this year and seeing really great results there. So this is where it gets into what can we manage and what can't we manage.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
one that always scares me is gases. Well, you know,
Yep. Yeah.
can't do
Well, I
anything about
mean, and I guess since you've talked about it a little bit, I mean, I'll just give you a quick example. We have a bunch of trials going on right now where we've done, we've done application of fungicide at early stages. We've done some we've done a two pass system around V10, and then 30 days later, we've done another one at V12. We've done some at VT, a couple different products. And one of the ones, and this may be, something that's verifying what your test results, what you're saying here is that one of the best responses I've had at this point in all of the different varieties we planted is a variety that has got a fairly decent disease package against, tar spot. I put it out there um, at V12 really early. It was a one pass, and I used, a cheaper, I didn't use a Veltima. I use a much more cost effective fungicide. And that's some of the most healthy stuff we've got. And so, trying to learn that data to say, okay, well, I don't need to spend all of these, I don't need to spend $100 an acre in disease package treatments. Can I get away with $25 an acre and making, picking the right varieties to give a better ROI? And that's what Dutch Farms Crop Services. I know at Ag, Axis here, what you're trying to do, at Sweetwater, we're all trying to get to that point of getting a better ROI, and that's the key, I think, to being successful next year, the year after that, the year after that. That's the 5% better that Dr. Cole talks about. Be 5% better than your competitors. That this is part of it.
I completely agree. I feel like with this piece here, and I go to the true nutrient, which we'll jump into in a second here.
Yep.
But with the true nutrient, that's like the screen door that everybody walks through, right? Like that's the
Yep.
information that everybody knows, everybody understands it. Yep, we can put that to work. But then there's that other door that's been locked for decades that everybody kind of thought they understood to a certain extent. And in this biological space, a lot of guys are making decisions on a very broad basis, right? Well, can we unlock that door? Um, and to your point, pairing some of these genetics when it comes down to a great disease package, a lot of growers are like, well, disease package means it's workhorse.
Yeah.
That's not that's like mentality from 20 years ago.
Yep.
We're seeing products this year that have some of the best disease control packages that are bringing yields that are absolutely phenomenal at the farm gate. And
Yeah.
I'm not being just judgmental about our product line. I'm saying on a broad footprint basis, um, and taking it kind of the next level. So,
Yeah.
but with this piece, we'll jump into the biofertility, which is the last part here.
Yeah.
Um,
So let's just real quick, let's go back and just summarize.
yep,
So what we were just talking about was the true bio, and what it is a scan of your field to help you decide what potential risks of disease is the following year. Correct?
correct.
Yep.
Yep.
So just real quick, tell the listeners how we determine that. What's the process? I mean, I know we put the order in. Just the nuts and bolts of how to get this data. Grower has to do it. We do it. Just walk through that real quick.
Yeah, so far it's been pretty painless. Like all startups and newer companies, Earth Optics has been in business for with the Pattern Ag piece merger last year, probably I'd say 4, if not 6 years, maybe it's 6 years now between the two of them.
Yep. I think
But
it
it's
is six, Andy. Yeah.
the six. So I think that with that. trend line as we go along here, it gets better every year, right? Like they learn
Yeah.
from the last year, they make their improvements, and they add the different ratings in. We were a pain in the butt last year because I wanted to see, okay, how much of a pain in the rear can I be on a small test? I mean, if you look at that, like that, for a guy to drive to go take that test and have it done. So I tested them. Like I was like, okay, you said 48 hours is going to happen. So it's pretty simple. We put the order in. It takes us about a minute and a half to put the order in. And then the farmer calls or texts us and says, hey, that North 80 is ready to go. And all we
Yep.
do is log in real quick and hit ready to sample. Once we hit that button, 48 hours late, within 48 hours, they have pulled all the samples, they send them in. And about 2 weeks later, we get all the full results back. We have more than enough time to take that and turn it over to a plan, not only for fall, if a guy needs fall fertilizer data, that comes back pretty quick. But
Yep.
the DNA piece is 2 weeks. And the DNA piece, we've got all winter then for that grower to take that information and be like, okay, how am I going to manage my farm?
Yep.
Um, Every test is done on corn and soybeans, so they get results there. So that if they haven't made that decision acre basis wide, which way am I going to go? It's not like you pick corn or soybeans on the biofertility piece and crop protection side. It gives you both. You can make your decisions there, and it comes with recommendations. So it allows us to, you get into here, it gives you recommendations for all of those areas that might be stress mitigators and where to go
Yep.
with.
Yep.
Uh, so as we go through that piece, it's pretty simple. I mean, they get the information back and away we go, and then I'll sum up at the very end with the planning portion. But yeah,
Yeah. So what I just want to make sure that we understand though, I mean, it is somebody from Earth Optics is
correct.
coming out and taking soil samples. So it's for a grower, it's pretty easy. You say, you know what? Yes, I do want to make better decisions on my soil. I'd like my soil to talk back to me. I want a better ROI. Please scan this field. They'll go scan the field. You'll get the data back, and then it's up to you working with your partners of how to digest and make that data beneficial for you on your farm.
Absolutely. And we want to be one of those partners, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
we're hoping we're going to get to have that conversation too. But obviously, with the retailer and the guys that are selling the regular fertilizer, we want that to be part of that conversation too.
Yep,
Um, no, we don't offer the fertilizer piece and the chem piece, but if we can definitely be part of that conversation, that'd be great.
yeah. Well,
Now,
this is
yep,
probably, with the Earth Optics, to me, this is the most, from a grower perspective, Andy, this is, to me, is this the most powerful piece of Earth Optics. I know you were talking about the true nutrient. Maybe, that we can go into that. That's pretty standard. I mean, soil sampling has been something that, has been around forever. So, but the bio part is really what separates Earth Optics from somebody just going out and taking soil samples.
completely agree with you. Absolutely. And just to go back real quick to, who's going to pull that sample, just to highlight that, Jared, like I'm not that guy, right? Like
Yeah.
I really believe in life that you got to kind of segment what you're good at,
Yep.
what your passion is, and where you drive. What I really want to bring is a great partner that really focuses and is really good at one piece of that. So I look at Earth Optics as a really good partner for that piece. And that can help provide me and the grower with the data to help make better decisions. And,
Yep.
so the self-centered part, like, yeah, it may drive certain products to get moved, right? But it also will do the opposite. So I really feel like this is a great when people are starting to flirt with new relationships within their own operation and new suppliers coming in, what's that piece that really helps you decide, is this a decision that's in my best interest as a farmer or grower? Or is this in the best interest of the person that's coming in to court me to be a partner?
Yep.
And I feel like this is a great place for a grower to start with to be like, okay, you go through this biofertility piece real quick, urease inhibitor, like we can get into N fixation potential. you're talking about this end fixation piece here with your azobacters, okay? Well, that costs money as a biological. If you're really high here, does this make sense?
Yeah.
If this was green and really low, does it make sense for you to put inoculant on your soybeans? In the past, I probably would have said, well, it probably doesn't make any sense. After talking to Mr. Fred Belo, that's somewhat changed. I think that deserves a conversation, maybe another day. But
Yeah.
with the genetic potential, but as you go down here, your P solubilization activity, you're getting your bacillus strains and others, and I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for those two biologicals when I look at this test for me to spend that money here.
Yeah.
Uh, and I look back at some of those plantar pale treatments that we tested here at the warehouse for a couple of years. We didn't see an ROI specifically here at the warehouse at our facility in our answer plot. Um, so I shouldn't call it an answer plot because that's kind of a violation. That's more Winfield's data, but it's a lookalike.
Yep.
So I should call that out. But with that piece, we didn't see an ROI. Well, the reason we didn't see an ROI, soil wasn't calling for it. It didn't need it.
Yep.
You get into your plant growth promoters. This can have, not to get, and just real quick there on that one, not to get that piece overly confused with um, your PGRs,
Yep.
but PGRs and your biostimulants can still promote the auxins of the same level to be promoted within a plant. Well, if you're overstimulating one portion of a plant, it can actually have an antagonistic effect to the plant and work the other way.
Correct. Correct.
So if you got a grower that's using PGRs and he's got really high plant growth promoters, and you're going to go ahead and put a Terracin 450 product in this dirt, there's a chance that you could create a negative interaction within your dirt just because you're overstimulating that one portion of that plant.
Correct.
Um, but so anyways, I can geek out about all this stuff here for a long time, but all of this helps lead us to better decision making pieces. And
Yeah.
just to
And
briefly go over the true nutrient. Yeah. Jerry, you got a question or a
no,
statement?
I was just going to say and that's the goal, to make better decisions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Make better decisions, better ROI for a farmer. Let's spend your money where it needs to be spent and not overspend across every acre.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this
So
is
this
what
is
your
the
soil test is going to look
Yeah,
like.
so this is the true nutrient side of it of Earth Optics. We were just talking about the true bio. This is true nutrient. You can get soil samples from them as well. So what we're seeing here is the base saturations in parts per million here on the soils, the samples that you took, right?
Yep, these are based on the samples we took. I'm just going to highlight one piece real quick, and then I know we gotta probably wrap up. We're probably bumping up towards close to the end of our time here, aren't we?
Yep,
Uh,
we're getting close.
Getting close here. So there. Oh, it's in the next screen. Sorry. Jump over here, your base saturation. So for your calcium,
Yep,
that one is where I was like, okay, I don't know if you guys can tell where we haven't applied liquid calcium, the calcium chloride product that's going to improve base saturations, but I can.
yeah,
These two red spots right here, those two segments of the trial space have never had nutrable liquid calcium on them. So this one has only had one application here. The rest of these areas have had multiple. But you start taking it, a look at that, you're like, okay, well, it's accurate. It's
yep,
showing the information back. But um, anyhow, this is the piece here. And just to wrap up on your planning part. So how do we go ahead and put that into um, how do we put that to work for your farm?
yeah. So then
So
you take the true bio, the true nutrient piece, and then you can get into recommendations. You could load genetics in, and you can compare and contrast which ones have the best defense based on what you have out there. Correct?
absolutely. Yep. Yep. So just real quick, if I decided to take 57Q66 here, and put that in there, you'll see that it's going to mitigate these stress points based on your base seed treatment, and
Yep.
then these stress points based on the genetic potential for those diseases to be mitigated by what naturally occurs in that plant. And then if you were to say, okay, we're going to go 51P65 here, you see tar spot goes way up,
Yep.
but rootworm level drops.
Yep.
So, you know, it helps us give us directional ratings. And then a lot of these other things that come in here, some of that's in the seed treatment, the base. And then we can get into the foliar and furrow products. That would be more of your meristem planter box treatments, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's nice about this, and excuse me, I say this is true with anything, whether you're budgeting, keeping track of, your year-to-date financials or doing all this stuff. Like the only way that you as a grower will sit down and spend time on doing this if it's fairly easy to do and easy to understand. If you've got to pour over brochures and a ton of reading with handwritten notes on that, are we using the best use of our time? But the thing that's nice about this planning, when you start loading in all the different trait packages or different varieties that you would be putting in here within click of a button, you can say, what's your most pain point? You as a grower, are you most concerned about rootworms or tar spot? That to me, that's one of the two that you just picked right here. This 51P65, and I can't remember what the other one was.
57Q66.
Yeah,
Yeah.
57Q66. As I look at the difference between that, okay, 57 gives you um, really a great rating on any of your fungal diseases that are going to come from the soil. But you're going to probably have to, or you need to consider looking at potentially putting some treatment in furrow or something there for rootworm. Now, is that your biggest concern as a grower? And what's the cost difference of that versus the one you just highlighted? If you go back to that, the other one, which was was it 5165? Yeah,
Yep. 51Q66.
5165. Maybe you're a grower that says, I'm not that worried about tar spot. I'm more worried about rootworm. If tar spot starts to show up, or we get word it is that it's creeping in this area, then I'll treat it at that point. Now, if that's your mentality, maybe 51P65 is the better variety for you to pick because it gives you a better defense on rootworms, maybe a little less on northern corn leaf blight. Tar spot doesn't look like it gives you a heck of a lot of package, but if that's where the spot you're willing to roll the dice, now you can make those decisions. And we just made that decision in less than probably 30 seconds, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you pair that with local expertise and knowledge on those hybrids, because that's the other part I'll just really highlight real quick is like you go down this list here and you say, okay, well, maybe I want to run with 63Y68, right? Well, if I'm talking to a guy in southern Wisconsin, um, 63Y68 probably isn't a fit. It's not where he probably wants to go with that corn. Likewise, if I'm talking to a guy as I move into that central area, 104 day, wants something early to get started, I would probably take him from 54H57 to 55B62 just because of my experience with that local
Yep.
knowledge. So pairing those two pieces together, really know your product, know your placement when what it can handle, where it can go north and south on stress, and then let your soil talk to you on your farm and really funnel that down to what the disease package is that you need.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think it's a very
Yeah,
powerful tool that put to work on your farm tomorrow.
it is. It is. Well, Andy, I'll give you the last word, buddy. This has
Yeah.
been great. This has been great info. I mean, I know we've gone through a lot of stuff here in just under or at 30 minutes. I'm not sure exactly how long, man. Maybe we're probably just a little over 30 minutes. But if you want to get started with this, or you want to see how this works, you can reach out to Andy or myself. Andy, you get the last word. Give them your contact information.
A Paulson at accessseeddirect.com, or just go to our website, www.accessseeddirect.com, and we get in touch with your local dealer or work directly with us or Jer here. Just reach out anytime.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate the you getting on. Appreciate everybody listening. That concludes Earth Optics with Axis Seed and Best Farms Crop Services. We'll see you next
Appreciate it
time.
for sure. Yep.
You got it.